you.
Thank you.
Man, way to do it, brother.
Woo!
All right.
Welcome, everybody. Woo. That's a pretty good way to start a talk about play, I would say. Don't you think?
Hey, Sully, quick one right before we start. Hold up. I'm a little winded right now, so I want to invite you all, if you can, to just pick an imaginary flower right by your chair. Oh, yeah, just an imaginary one. Hey, stop playing with the balloons, all right? Jeez. All right, you're not done. Well, you got that imaginary flower? Smell it first. Okay. Now I want you to pick an imaginary bubble wand that you kind of would dip into the soap to blow some bubbles. Yeah, let's smell that flower together. And let's blow some bubbles. Ah, let's smell that flower one more time. Let's blow some bubbles. Let's smell that flower one more time. Don't be smelling the bubbles now. Smell that flower one more time. Let's blow some bubbles. Yeah. So good to be here. So good to be alive. So good to be with the one, the only, the incredible Dr. Karen Sullivan. But in Boston, y'all, we just call her Sully. Because when you're from Boston, you got to have a Sully in your life. And that's my Sully.
Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. This is my friend Steve Gross, and he's from Life is Good. And hopefully we're going to move your heart into action, and you're going to understand the power of play when we're done talking. The history behind me and Steve being here tonight is actually pretty incredible, so I need to just tell you our backstory. So we had our heyday in 1998. For 3 summers, Steve and I were best friends at day camp. I was the office manager. I applied for a job as a counselor of the children, and after taking one look at me and talking with me, the owner of the camp said, "Absolutely not. You seem to have office manager potential." So we went that route. And Steve was the director of the camp. This is in Waltham, Massachusetts. And the reason Steve was so special to me, the truth is what I now know, is really how he saw me and the specialness with which he treated me. And I didn't quite understand, why does Steve make me feel so good? And now I kind of understand a little bit about what is so valuable to him. But time goes on, I go to college, Steve gets his master's in social work, I go on to get a PhD, we both get married, we have 2 kids. We don't talk for 25 years, okay? And I miss this guy so bad, I can't find him, I can't get in touch with him anywhere. 4 months ago, I was at CCNC having lunch with Kathy Stockham from the foundation, and Dr. Jim Foster was the guest that day. This is Mickey Foster's dad. This is the CEO of FirstHealth's father. And when he heard that I was from Boston, he said, "You know, Boston just immediately makes me think of the finest man that I ever met in my whole life." And I thought, well, there's millions of Bostonians. I'm not going to know who it is. And he said his name was Dr. Herb Gross. And it immediately clicked that this was my long-lost friend Steve's father. And Dr. Jim Foster is actually with us tonight in the audience. And I want to tell you a little bit about their backstory. So what they did was actually quite incredible. For many, many summers, they would collaborate. Dr. Gross was from MIT in Boston. And he would come down here and stay in Sanford over the summer, and they would collaborate on curriculum for the Harnett Correctional Facility inmates. And they had a beautiful relationship that I'm just starting to get to know about. And through that lunch, it hit me, oh my gosh, I have to get back in touch with Steve. So that is the seed of how we got back here tonight. Isn't that incredible? So I'm going to start us off by giving us a little bit of the lay of the land. When you think about play, it's kind of hard to think, well, what could be an academic definition of that? What is maybe a little bit more of a sublime definition of that? So we're going to just cover that as we get started. So play is a state of mind that we have when we're so absorbed in an activity, we're enjoying it so much that there is that suspension of time. Some people call that the flow state. You're not aware of anything else going on. It's a low-stakes way to really figure out who we are as people and what other people are all about. And what you're going to learn tonight is you have to be in an optimal brain state to play. The brain circuits in your brain will not fire if you perceive any type of threat at all. And this might be my favorite definition. Play is transcendence. It is only through unscripted, imaginative nature that our authentic selves can be found. So as we sit and hold this space together tonight, I'd really love for you to start to think about this idea of bringing more play into your life. It's really an invitation tonight. Play's job is to grow a strong brain. If you look at neuronal pathways over the first 2 years of life, you can see that they're pretty darn disconnected in the beginning, and their job is to really join together to learn about all of our capabilities, our physical well-being, our social and emotional health, our mental health, our cognitive capabilities. So through play, we're actually mimicking all of those experiences and laying down neural pathways that we use for the rest of our lives. These play circuits in the brain are located in the brainstem. So what that means is this is the oldest part of the brain. This is right next to things like thirst. This is right next to things like body temperature. This is next to things like hunger. Play is a part of the ancient brain. And those circuits in the brainstem there, we call them the PAG, they are connected to the prefrontal cortex. And that circuit, that loop, is really where we find the neurological magic of play. Play is so much more than just a game. It really is a way of life. So within the PAG, we know that this is a part of homeostasis. So if you deprive an animal, including us, of play, it turns out there's a rebound effect, and you actually wind up playing more. So it's the same thing with sleep. If you have a bad night's sleep, the next night you're going to be more in a deep REM state because you've been deprived the night before. Play is actually a part of that same old system, but we don't think about it like that at all, right? We don't think about it as a basic human need. So when the play circuits are activated, we actually release opioids into our frontal lobes, and that's what makes us feel peaceful. That's what makes us feel joyful. But those circuits, what's very interesting about them is they can only fire in the absence of threat. You have to be in a low adrenaline, low cortisol state in order to engage in play. Now, someone can force you to play. We've all been in that situation. But that's not play. That's something else. True play, interpersonal, reciprocal play, even imaginative play, you actually have to be in a very specific neurochemical state. And that's important to know, as Steve's going to talk to you more about tonight. So when we think of threat, of course, the first thing you think of is war zones and hurricanes, natural disasters. But for most of us, the threat probably takes a different form. So when you think of the idea, if I was right now to say, hey, we're all going to get in a circle and we're all going to tell each other, an icebreaker, there's probably a few things that might make you feel a little awkward about that or a little bit uncomfortable. So for those of us in our first world nation, the threats can actually take different forms. So one of the big ones that we see in people is not being comfortable with unstructured time where playfulness can be born because we have a fear of failure. What if I don't do it right? What if I don't know how to succeed in this realm? We have the fear of the unknown. For some of you, it's being too competitive. You can't relax enough internally to engage in play because you're so focused on the outcome. You're so focused on wanting to win. Fear of embarrassment. We also have, maybe I won't know what to do. In my work, I have a script and I know how to do my job. When I go and I do my hobbies that I do all the time, I know how to do that. Play invites us into the unstructured time. And for many of us, that causes a fair amount of anxiety. So one of the biggest threats in our modern society is, what if I'm not invited to play in a relationship where I actually feel valued and seen? And that's where we start to tie all of this back to clinical populations like traumatized children or older adults who are living with dementia. So I thought this was a really cute picture of this little girl here. As clinicians, we can actually use play as an indicator of a child's well-being. So if you're a child psychologist and you are with a kid who's undergoing some mental health issue and you put play objects in front of them, the degree to which they can engage with those objects is the best barometer of that child's mental health. Isn't that something? And the same thing goes for adults, but with us, it's more of that attitude of playfulness. And that's what Steve's so good at explaining. So I'm going to leave you with 2 different slides, and I want you to think about what kind of brain do you want? A brain that is deprived of play is less able to learn, more inflexible, less able to adapt, low in empathy, has a poor filter, irritable, depressed, less peaceful, less joyful, less loving, and less connected? Or would you choose to have a brain that has these attributes? And so a brain that is safe to play is supercharged for learning. All those endogenous opioids are giving off nerve growth hormone. That's part of neuroplasticity that we talk so much about. It's part of growing a stronger, more well-connected brain. You're more creative when you're playful. You can actually use your coping skills that you know intellectually. We're funnier when we're playful. Less stressed, stronger in immunity, and most important, more loving and more connected. So I think the choice is clear. I think we need to just make it a priority and invite it into our lives. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you my camp friend, Steve Gross.
Thanks, Doc. Hi, everybody. I hate going on after a neuroscientist. Yeah, super grateful to be here. I don't know, any of y'all familiar with a company called Life is Good? All right. So if somebody asks you like, oh, this Life is Good company, what do they do? What would you tell them? What do we do? Yeah, make t-shirts. Shoot, I got a Life is Good t-shirt on right now. I don't imagine this talk is going to go well enough to warrant me showing you my Life is Good boxes, but I got those too. But if you ask anyone at Life is Good, the for-profit side of the company, like, what's this brand about? I mean, nobody's really all that passionate about t-shirts. You can probably tell from looking at me, I'm not a fashion icon. T-shirts are a vehicle. They're a vehicle for wearing a message across your chest, sharing some simple wisdom, maybe sharing some beautiful artwork, but pulling a community together about spreading the power of optimism. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity optimism. I'm not talking about everything is wonderful, no problems, count your blessings, you got to be grateful. I get it, okay? But life isn't easy. And life isn't perfect. And there's no shortage sometimes on fear and sadness and loss and challenge. But even amidst those things, even amidst all the obstacles, we still got to be able to see the light and the opportunity. And I can tell this is a community that does it particularly well, really well. I've been moved just being here. And, you know, if Karen asked me to go somewhere, I'm going to say yes. But what I thought I could do today is share a little bit about our work. And my expertise, if I have any, is really about children. It is really about how do you help children who've experienced overwhelming stress not lose the joy of childhood, not lose their sense of wonder, not lose their sense of feeling powerful and feeling like they belong. But what's really clear to me, and what's been clear to me in this journey, is this is not just about kids. This is about all of us. And when you sometimes talk about play, people think, oh, that's just for the little ones. No, we can't lose it. And so I'd like to start, but before I kind of jump into my talk, make sure this works. Yeah, that's my dad. Yeah. I saw Jim Foster, and he loved my dad, and my dad loved him. My dad's not with us anymore. I mean, actually, it's not true. He is with me. He's flowing through my blood. He's in my DNA. He's with me all along. And he loved this community. He would talk all the time about prison education, talking about working at the community college at Sanford, talking about eating at the same diner every day. Every day. I'd be like, Dad, was the food that good? He's like, not really. I'd be like, why you eat there every day? He's like, well, the people were nice. That's all that mattered. The people were nice. But I want to tell you a little something about my dad because, my dad, when I was, I can remember him saying to me, and I imitate him, not to make fun of him, but that's how I bring him up. And he would say to me, Stephen, life in many ways is like a terminal illness. And I'd be like, how so, Dad? And be like, well, someday you realize that not only that you're going to die, and you also realize that everyone you know and love is going to one day die. And I remember thinking at the time, like, Dad, I'm 7 years old. Can we, color or play wiffle ball or do something else? But no, my dad really, in all seriousness, he had this, his spiritual belief was this. No one of us has a choice over being born. We just showed up here. And none of us have a choice that one day we're not going to be here. But that each of us has a choice over helping to make somebody else's journey from birth to death better because we were there to help along the way. And how you help is up to you. There's no unimportant jobs. My dad was a mathematician. But he used math. He wasn't passionate just about math. He was passionate about using mathematics to help other people realize their competency. To know that they could learn, to know that they were valued, to know that they were smart. And a lot of people don't know this, but my dad started out at MIT. He was a calculus professor at MIT. I don't know how he gave birth to me. But man, he was at the most prestigious mathematical university, perhaps in the world. Taught calculus. And he quit. He quit. And you know where he went after he quit? Bunker Hill Community College in Charlestown, Massachusetts, the bank robbery capital of the world. Took a major hit for prestige. Took a major pay cut. My mom left him. I'm only kidding. She didn't, but she could have. It was a risk. We tried it. He was the only breadwinner. And when people asked him, Herb, are you crazy? Why would you leave MIT to teach at Bunker Hill? He said, because teaching at Bunker Hill is going to allow me to fulfill my mission. The students at Bunker Hill need me more. At MIT, I play mathematics. At Bunker Hill, I coach it. And that he saw that this gave him the best opportunity to increase his net worth. Because my dad, he didn't view net worth the same way as we do. Net worth is such a stupid piece of data, in my opinion. You take all your assets, subtract your liabilities. Somehow that's your worth on this planet. Mine's $37. There's got to be more. And he would talk about your ROH, which is really your return on humanity. And your return on humanity was a very simple formula, just hard to calculate, but you take all the good you've done for others. And in that, you subtract, because we're humans, all the harm we've caused to others. We're going to cause some harm every now and again. And what you're left with is your return on humanity. Your return on humanity is your true net worth. And it doesn't matter what you do. You have to find that distinct competence. Man, flashback, music. Making people smile, making people laugh, playing music. Wow, that's an incredible what. But if your why is to make other people's journey from birth to death better, well, man, you are doing the most incredible spiritual work you can do. If you're a chef and you're cooking and you're nourishing, if you're a plumber, electrician, bringing clean water and light, it doesn't matter the what. It's the why. Now, I also want to just share a little bit about my work with young children, because I've really focused on the early childhood community because they're co-parenting our children. Early childhood educators are working with children at the most formative time in their brain development. Their brain will develop more in the first 5 years of their life than it will in the next 95 if they live to be 100. But they're not treated very well. They don't make any money. They're almost considered like babysitters. You can work at, Bojangles or KFC and make more money.
But these folks are co-parenting our children. Now, by the way, this is my daughter's kindergarten class. Now, I just want you to guess, my title is the Chief Playmaker of the Life is Good Playmaker Project. I'm here to spread joy and optimism and love and hope to children. Which one of these kids you think is mine? Now, don't say it out loud, just kind of pick one. Now, if you picked her, you'd be dead wrong because that's my girl. My God. I have no idea what happened before that picture was taken, but that dude in the plaid shirt must have done something. Yeah, that's my little girl. She's not always like that. But I want to tell you a little bit about our work. And it's going to start off, it's going to be a little intense because it's not all sunshine. You know, what we're talking about is play as a healing vehicle. And understanding healing from what? Because, you know, we don't have a perfect world. We don't have a perfect world. So our mission is to spread the power of play to help kids heal from childhood trauma. And so to really understand that, well, we got to kind of break it down into the problem and one of the solutions. And so I want to start with childhood trauma, and I want to be clear, this is heavy for me. I know we were singing and we were dancing. My man over here, man, I love you, bro.
All right, thank you, sir.
And we're playing with beach balls. This play work is serious stuff. Sometimes people don't take you seriously. You know, it's funny, when I started out at the trauma center, you know, so my background is in trauma. I'm a clinical social worker working in something that was called critical incident stress response. What do you do after a tsunami? What if you do after a shooting? What do you do after an earthquake? What if you do after a traffic accident, a fire, when kids their assumptions of life are shattered? And how do you help to mobilize a community to support those kids? And I was lucky. You know, I got to talk all over the country, all over the world, too, to talk about trauma, the impact of trauma on the physiology of children, on their neurodevelopment, on their bodies, on their social and emotional well-being. And when you talk about trauma, people think you're smart. It's important stuff. Just like if you're talking about neuroscience. Yeah. But I knew something else. See, I knew that the cure was simple things. Love, joy, a sense of peace. And I found out something different. See, when you talk about trauma, people think you're pretty smart. When you talk about peace, love, and joy, people think you're doing a lot of weed or something. They think you're just talking about the fluff. It doesn't mean anything. Oh, peace, love, and joy, that's nice. You go, no, that's not nice. That's the cure. And you can measure it. You can really bring a science to it. So I didn't want to be in the trauma field. I want to be in the joy, love, and peace field. People would say to me, oh, you left the trauma field? I said, no, man, I'm just approaching it from a different angle. I'm still doing the same work. I just got a different brand. Because what you pay attention to grows. If you're just looking for trauma, you find no shortage of it. But how do we find the things that help to transform and to help people reclaim their lives again? So I'm going to share this right quick. But I want to talk about something called adverse childhood experience, or ACEs. Has anyone ever heard of the Center for Disease Control ACEs study? Show of hands. Basically, it's looking at early childhood adversity, and I'll put it in this comment. I'm going to get closer to here so that the slide works. But abuse, neglect, household dysfunction, and what it does to the developmental trajectory of human beings. So we look and we say, okay, adverse childhood experiences. The way the study was designed was saying that, okay, first thing that we all have are childhood experiences. We all had them. Raise your hand if you were once a child. Yeah, we had experiences. Sometimes when those experiences that we were loved and we were nurtured and people danced with us and had music and we stayed at our grandparents' house and we got to go fishing and swimming. Well, our experiences, they actually impact the way our brain develops. See, our brain develops in use-dependent ways. Human beings, we are wired really for three beautiful things. And I know Dr. Sullivan, it's so great having a neuroscientist in my corner because I like to simplify everything out of necessity. Okay, I don't understand the complexities of the brain, but I know that humans are designed and our brains are designed for three things. One of them, our brainstem, is designed for preservation, to keep us alive. It regulates our heart, our respiration. We have an acoustic startle reflex. It tells us when we're hungry. It tells us when we need to use the bathroom. It tells us when we should probably reproduce. Okay, it's autonomic functioning, and it's about survival. And then we have this mammalian part of our brain, which is just about connection and emotion and love. And then we have this prefrontal part of our brain, which is like what makes us human. We can reason in our ideas and our philosophies. And so when we get to engage and connect with other people, we develop what I like to call a playful brain. It's wired for exploration and affiliation. That's this community. Exploration, I want to read, I want to learn, I want to visit faraway places, I want to cook exotic foods, I want to dance, and most importantly, I want to do this in community because we're nothing without those connections. And then, if our brain develops as a playful brain, well, it allows us to function really well socially and emotionally. We feel good about who we are. We feel good about others. We feel good about the world around us, which allows us to have a lifestyle of exploration and affiliation. We might like to dance. We might love the arts. We might make a lot of friends. We got good relationships. We got a fulfilling job. We got all these wonderful things, which impacts our overall health, which then allows us to live as long and as healthy as possible. That makes sense, right? So these early experiences, they create the foundation. But then the CDC kind of found out, like, well, what happens, okay? What happens when those childhood experiences aren't great? What happens when they're really bad? What happens instead of being loved and nurtured and cared for, you're abused? What happens if instead of you're crying in your crib for hours on end, but your parents are passed out from a drug overdose? Your brain develops in use-dependent ways. It didn't get a chance to develop for exploration and affiliation. It was focused on survival, so you develop what we call surviving brain. Your brain architecture changes. Your brainstem is alive. You become good at hiding or fighting or fleeing, but you don't become very good at loving and learning. And as a result of that, well, you don't see yourself as being very good. You don't trust other people. You see the world as a pretty hostile place. And as a result of that, you're not very happy. Life is hard. You have difficult relationships. Maybe lose a bunch of jobs. You want to feel good, but you don't feel good, so maybe you're more apt to, engage in health risk behaviors. Maybe you're more apt to try drugs or alcohol or promiscuous sexual activity just to feel alive, just to feel needed. And as a result of that, well, you get sick. You're far more likely to develop heart disease or lung disease, depression, anxiety. You're almost 12 times more likely to attempt suicide in your life. And as a result of that, your life is cut short. And actually, people who have high levels of adverse childhood experiences die on average 20 years earlier than people without them. Now, I want to be really freaking clear on this. I can say freaking in the South, right? I just want to be careful. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm kind of Boston. My dad grew up in the rough part of Boston. So anyway, this is tragic. But I want you to know this is correlation, not causation. What that means is, I know there's people in this audience going, I had a lot of adversity in my life. I had severe abuse. I had neglect. I was in poverty. I witnessed violence, did all these things. This mean I'm going to die young? No. Because in addition to ACEs, we have PACEs, positive experiences in childhood, relationships, connections that change the trajectory, and they're usually brought about for us by these people. We call them playmakers. Yeah, I'm a playmaker, Playmaker University. I love it because a playmaker, you think about, raise your hand if you like sports. Okay, playmakers in sports, you know about them. Game's on the line, 20 seconds left. Who do you want to have the ball? Oh, yeah, you need your playmaker. I heard Steph Curry over there. He's magical. He's going to be a playmaker. He's not going to shy from the moment. He's going to make something positive happen that may change the outcome of the game. Playmakers in sports are great. We love them. Playmakers in life are way more important. See, they come into a kid's life at a pivotal time in their life, and they make something good happen. It changes their trajectory, changes the outcome. Some are teachers, some are social workers, some are coaches, some are mentors. Some are just regular old people, neighbors, just like y'all. Now, what they use and why we have them is because just because we can't control this, well, playmakers come and see that the other dominoes don't fall. Playmakers come into kids' lives and say, what can we do to help their brain development? What can we do to help them to see their beauty and their value? How can we teach them how to handle sadness and pain in an adaptive way through community, through expression, through art, through dance, through music? Raise your hand if you ever suffered. I know y'all have. We all suffer. But it's what we do with that. It's what we do to help ourselves heal that makes all the difference. This is what Playmaker is about, and the tool that they use is play. And play is medicine. It really is. It's medicine. We know it. And so many kids aren't getting an adequate dose. And we don't really fully understand what play is. And so that's what I really want to have a little fun right now to talk about it, because it's not just tapping balloons up in the air and listening to beautiful music. It's not about forcing yourself to act childish unless you want to. I love acting childish. My kids used to love it. Now they're in middle school. It's like, Dad, you're so cringe. Y'all know what cringe is? Y'all say cringe where you're from? Cringe is just so bad. I always make my kids cringe, but hopefully they'll outgrow that. But what is it? So I want to share this view of what playmakers believe is play. Number one, it's any activity. Any activity that's done with the right approach, when you put that together, you get play. Play is not about what you do. It is the spirit and the intentionality with which you do everything you do, just because right there, this idea of what we're doing now is we're playing. Substitute the word play for a joyful affiliation and exploration. Schools should be places of play. That's what a school is, joyful affiliation and exploration. We put our kids in an enriched environment where they should explore and affiliate. You know, we think of play as the activity, but man, just because you're in the sandbox doesn't mean you're playing. Yeah, we think, I have a nephew. So my nephew, when he was little, my sister called me and said, like, yo, you want to watch Josh play soccer? I was like, yeah, I want to watch Josh play soccer. I watched him. After the game, I said, Elle, Josh isn't playing soccer. She said, what are you talking about? I said, no, man, Josh is doing soccer. He's doing it. Playing it involves joy. Playing means you got to actually love your teammates and love being out there and have a sense of wonder and passion and feel competent. Just because you're playing, on a soccer field, or you got a puzzle or a doll, or it doesn't mean you're playing, because playing is the energy. It's an energy. I have schools sometimes say to me, like, yeah, we don't have time for play. We got to focus on math, science, things. But bro, play math, play science, play history. What do you mean? Make sure you're bringing joy to it. Make sure you're building community through it. Make sure you're helping kids engage in it. And make sure you give kids voice and choice. Again, not about what you do, it's about how you do the things you do. And so I want to share these 4 domains, because actually, and one of the things I'm so excited about working with Dr. Sullivan, or my friend Sully, if I can call her that, I want to talk about these 4 domains because what we're learning is these 4 domains are not just the 4 domains of play, they're the 4 domains of what a vibrant community, a healthy community thrives on. And the first one of those is joy. Joyfulness. What's life without it? This enduring sense of positivity. Notice I use the word enduring. Sometimes you feel, I like to think of joy as like the sun. Some days you feel that sun on your face, you feel the joy, it's emanating, you love it. And other days it's rainy and cloudy and stormy, and you go, the joy's gone. I don't feel it at all. But you go, no, it's not gone. If that sun was gone, we'd be in another ice age. The sun is still there in the exact same place. There's just stuff covering it. Sometimes your joy feels wonderful and you feel like singing and skipping. And sometimes your joy is kind of what holds your hand and helps you get out of bed and face another day. You don't feel it, but it's there. You know, this is a picture of me with Beatles drummer Ringo Starr. Has nothing to do with the talk, but I just kind of wanted to show it to you. This is Dr. William James, and Dr. William James said the greatest discovery of our time is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitude of mind, how we perceive the world, how we make meaning of every interaction. Not only does it change our lives, it changes the lives of everyone we meet. Everybody. It's like, so what is the attitude of mind? What is the attitude of mind that has an evidence base that allows people to lead the healthiest, most productive, the most connected, the most meaningful lives? And the attitude of mind is pretty interesting. It's optimism. It's positivity. And I want to share, because this is a great example. Anyone here ever played baseball or softball when you're growing up? Okay, cool. Anyone here ever play right field? Show of hands. Y'all know there's a reason you were playing right field, right? There's an algorithm. The ball doesn't go there until you're like over 12. There's never been a ball hit by little leaguers into right field. Very rarely. And this little boy's playing right field. He's in a playground in Boston. He's playing right field. He's the happiest kid on the block. He's out there and he's doing that baseball chatty, you know, come on, baby, no batter, kid. Here we go, kid. And he's chasing butterflies. He's picking grass. He's like twirling around, doing a pirouette in the outfield. He is like loving the game. And his dad comes to the game. He's a little bit late. He parks the car right by right field. And he comes over and says, how's the game, son? Kid's like, Dad, it's awesome. It's awesome. I love baseball. He goes, really? He goes, yeah, I'm having the time of my life. Thank you, Dad, for signing me up. This is great. Father's like, wow. Son, what's the score? He goes, Dad, you won't believe it. It's 23-0. Yeah, baby. His father's like, wow, y'all are winning 23-0? Little boy like, heck no, Dad. We're losing 23-0. And the father's like, son, what are you so happy about? And the boy looks at his dad and says, Dad, come on, man. We haven't even been up yet. And I love it. I love the story. And I was thinking, like, when I first heard it, you know, as a younger guy, I was like, oh, wow, this kid is cool, man. He thinks he's going to score 24 runs the next inning, blah, 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 blah. And I realized that was just twisted, grown-up thinking. What am I so happy about? Dad, standing on green grass. Got a baseball glove that's bigger than my head. I got a father that signs me up for baseball and shows up and cheers me on at my game. I got friends. I can see, Dad. We don't have to have the score be 24-23. We don't have to have a narrow view of what it means to be winning in life. We've all been down 23-0 at certain points. How you stay in the game? How do you stay in the game? How do you see it differently? And not make it up. See, it's not this false stuff like, oh, well, we're really winning. It's actually seeing the good that is really there. Seeing the blessings. Hey, even though the score is 23-0, there's still a lot of things to be grateful for. There's always flowers for those who choose to see them. I had a guy talk to me about this idea between I have to and I get to. I one day said, I made a mistake, like, oh my God, I have to pick up my kids. And he was like, nah, man, you get to pick up your kids. You get to have kids. You get to have a car and pick them up. I'd be like, yeah, I have to go to the dentist. So, nah, man, you get to go to the dentist. You know how many people would dream of being able to go to the dentist? What the heck did you ever do to deserve to have two professionals, a hygienist and a dentist, staring over your mouth cleaning your teeth? You think you earned that? You know how long they go to school for? I have to go to you get to go to the supermarket. You get to go to the doctors. It's attitude, it's subtle. But by the way, I just want to be really clear. We humans, it's not always easy to do because we have a human negativity bias. It's just part of who we are as animals. See, we pay more attention to things that frighten us or upset us. They create a different emotional charge. You know, like if you all did a little evaluation of my talk, and let's say everyone loved it, and I was looking at the evaluations, they were from like 1 to 5. 1, the worst talk you ever heard. 5 was brilliant. And I'm looking through them. Karen sends them to me. 5. What a brilliant guy. 5. Not only brilliant, but strangely good looking. 5. Insightful. I never heard stuff like that. I was moved. 1. That guy was the biggest fraud and jerk I'd ever heard in my life. Say the rest of 5. When I go to bed at night, which one you think I'm thinking about? For me, I'm thinking about that one. I can't help it. Our brains are like Velcro for negative information. They're like Teflon for positive. I've seen people lose friendships over one comment that a friend made. I'm like, bro, they made 1,000 comments to you in your lifespan. This one is a deal breaker? But yeah. And that's why we look out in the media, we look at all the stuff. If it bleeds, it leads. Why? Because we pay attention. Why do I need to know about a train explosion in Sri Lanka? The news isn't the news, it's the violent death report. But all the news that's really going on won't really capture our attention. I don't see the news here talking about what an amazing community is coming together to really help people who, you know, are dealing with changes in their brains and a community that prides health over everything. Where's the media at? I guarantee you if I say something really raunchy, they'll be here. They're ready to cancel me. And I got to be careful because I'm cancelable. I got people talking to me like, yo, you better not say that. All right? So we already told the camera people that are here, if I do happen to slip up, we're going to edit that out. But I also want to show a little bit of this idea. The other piece is social connection. We're herd animals. We need people. The quality of our lives is in direct proportion to the quality of our relationships when we're kids, where nobody till somebody loves us. Where nobody till somebody cares. It's true. It's true. The best predictor of how well a child does in preschool is correlated to how much he or she thinks their teacher adores them. Some kids are adorable. Some kids not so much. But we got to find the ways to adore them. We got to find those hidden gems that are adorable because this social connection is big. And you know what's interesting? So this is a study that was done at Wayne State University in 2010. And I think it's pretty fascinating. But they call it the baseball card study. And what they did is they looked at 3 different types of baseball cards. They looked at folks that when they were getting their picture taken for their baseball cards, we had the no smile group, we had the partial smile group, and then we had the full smile group. And then they said, let's see if whether they smiled in their baseball card photo will have a correlation to how healthy they were. Kind of weird. By the way, I don't know if these players are still alive or dead, so if somehow you're friends with like Joe Dobson, you're like, oh my God, he died. I don't know. I just use these clip art photos from the internet, okay? So I'm not giving death notification here of any of these guys. But what they found out in the no smile group, average lifespan 72.9 years. Partial smile group, 75. Full smile group, 80 years. There was, if I do the math, a 7-year difference? Can someone run the numbers for me? 7 years, right? I nailed it. How did my father raise me? A difference? Because whether you smiled at your baseball card picture, that's gotta be wrong. But they did a meta-analysis. They looked at it. No, it's not wrong. And guess why? The smile was simply a predictor of the quality of somebody's relationships. Because a smile and a laugh sends a signal to other human beings that we're safe to connect with. The more free you are with a smile, the more people are going to want to connect with you. Like if you were lost and you were looking for directions to somewhere, like who are you going to ask? Lou Burdett or Joe Dobson? I'm not saying nothing to Lou Burdett. But Joe, man, I'll give him a hug right now. Laughter has no foreign accent. It's just a signal. Most laughter isn't an involuntary response to humor. We laugh because we want to let other people know I'm approachable. I want to join in the conversation. Y'all laughing. I ain't that funny. I know it's because you like me a little bit. A little bit. Now, I want to share one other study because I think it's fascinating. It's a small one, but it's fascinating. You won't read about it in many places. It was the Israeli clown study, and what they were doing was they were looking at in vitro fertilization. And so I have 2 children, thank goodness, to in vitro fertilization. I haven't told them yet, so let's just keep it down. I have to consult when's going to be a good time or if I need to. But here's the thing. They were looking at, well, what happens after we had about 186 women who were having an embryo implanted. And then after that procedure, you go into the recovery room. Well, they said, we're going to have 2 recovery rooms. One is going to be the plain old recovery room where they're going to go in there by themselves and recover. But the other, we're going to put on a little show. We're going to put them into a room, and we're going to have like a clown show. Not creepy clowns, but like a play, funny clowns. And we're going to have laughter and connection, and their family's going to be in there, and we're going to put on a little play. So then they had these 2 groups, the treatment only, treatment clown fun. And then guess what? The treatment group, 18 successful pregnancies. Clown fun group, 33. Wow, when we start to laugh, when we lower our stress chemicals, when we bring in endorphins and dopamine and oxytocin and all these wonderful chemicals, we lower inflammation and we actually heal faster. We get better. Patch Adams used to talk about clowning should not be like an activity in the hospital. It should be a philosophy of care. How do we create that environment which we, physiologically we function at our highest level? I want to share one last story about connection. So after the earthquakes in Haiti, a lot of my friends were like, why aren't you in Haiti, man? Why aren't you in Haiti? You do all this great play work. Why aren't you in Haiti? And I had a simple answer. Nobody asked me. You don't just show up. It's another country. Who am I? Think I have all the answers, going to come into some place. I said, if somebody invites us, I'll be there. Somebody invited us. But I told them I didn't think we could do anything yet because I didn't know Haiti. I needed to go there. I needed to live there for a little bit. I needed to walk around. I needed to talk to people. So I traveled with a medical team because they were doing real work right now. They were really dealing with saving physical lives. So I went there. And while I was there, someone said, hey, Steve, we got to ask you a favor, man. We know you brought your parachute and your play stuff. Because I bring my parachute everywhere I go in case the plane has engine trouble or whatever. And they said, would you be willing to play with some kids? And I was like, nah, I don't think it's a good idea. I said, y'all don't have a medical infrastructure. Most of these kids don't have shoes. I'm by myself. I don't know if I could supervise them well. What if a kid hurts himself? You know, like I like to come with a team and really make sure we can take care of the safety. And he said, don't worry at all about that. There's only a handful of kids who are healthy enough to play. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, many of them are dehydrated, many of them are hungry, many of them have, you know, are traumatized and have significant levels of traumatic stress. Many lost parents and are grieving. So I only think you're going to get about a handful of kids. And so sure enough, you know, I decided to bring my parachute out and play a little bit. That's me in the corner with the little hat on. And these are my friends. And so we played for about 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, well, I had to get rid of the parachute because every kid in the village wanted to play. I got to tell you something. We were not doing anything particularly fun. We were standing in a circle holding hands, just going like, moving around a little bit, singing a little song. At one point, I took my hat off, and we passed it around the circle. And while we did, I pretended to run and chase it and have a race against my hat. It wasn't about the play. No, it was about being part of something. It was about connecting with other people. I am not passionate about play for the sake of just play. I'm passionate about play as the container of joyful connection, of empowerment, of feeling alive. Social connection, as Karen said, this isn't a nice to have, it's a must have. And it doesn't change when we get older. Sometimes the worst thing about having an illness that we find debilitating is that somehow we feel cast away from the rest of the world. We're not integrating people into the world. We're not loving them the same way, seeing them the same way, valuing them the same way. There's a Zulu expression. When you meet someone on the path, you say sawubona. Sawubona means I see you. And when somebody says sawubona to you, your response is sikbona, means I am here. We're not always seeing people. We're not just seeing their face, we're seeing their humanity. We're seeing their value. We're seeing their worth. We're seeing their beauty. Because they are an only. Nobody in the world like them. Nobody in the world like you. Nobody even shares our same fingerprints, let alone our same experience. So we got joy in a community, social connection in a community. And the next one is this idea of active engagement. Can you be here now? Strangely, we have a harder time than ever being here now. Oh, I got my phone, I got to check this, I got to do this. And kids who've had a lot of trauma or anyone who's suffering a lot, sometimes it's really hard to be here now. I struggle like crazy to be here now unless I'm working. Sometimes when I'm just by myself, I just want to be here now. My mind starts to play tricks. Start thinking about the past, maybe some things that hurt me. Then I start worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow because tomorrow's not promised to any of us. And in between that time about dwelling on the past and worrying about tomorrow, I miss the now. And the now is the only time that anything else really happens. And I was thinking the other day, actually it wasn't the other day, it was like 4 years ago, but sounds more relevant if I say the other day. But my wife, who's like really an enlightened woman, she's incredible. I mean, she's just always centered. And she takes yoga classes all the time. And she rolls up her little mat. Hey, hon, I'm just going to go to yoga. Well, I recognize that I married way over my head. Everything about my wife is a little bit, at least, better than me, okay? She's better looking, she's smarter, she's more even-tempered, she makes way more money than I do. So I want to keep her close, you know what I mean? Like, I'm realizing I'm not going to do that great in the dating scene anymore, okay? My best years are over, dating-wise. I mean, I'll be real. So anyway, I probably am oversharing. So I say, hon, I'm going to go to this yoga class with you. I'd like to go. And she's like, okay. It's kind of a tough yoga class. I pause. Come on, hon. Tough yoga class? You forgetting I played high school football in 1985? Like, come on, look at this bar. I've been to the Lululemon store. I know the competition. I'm in. So she goes, okay, yeah, you can come. So I get to the yoga class, and it's like 127 degrees in the room. I'm like, oh, hon, class must be canceled. I think there's something wrong with the heating system. And she goes, nah, it's hot yoga. I go, that's a thing? She goes, yeah, they keep it really hot so you can really sweat and get more flexible. And now I'm getting a little worried. So I say, how long's the class? And I'm hoping it's like 20 minutes. She goes, 80 minutes. So now I'm panicked because I'm thinking like, she's trying to find like enlightenment. I might die in the yoga class. People do. So I'm in the class, I'm doing my like thing. And I'm looking at the clock. And I'm like, I got like an hour and 18 more minutes in this class. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. And the teacher sees me. Y'all, show of hands if you ever been to a yoga class. All right, the teacher sees me. I made a fatal mistake to be right up front. She goes, excuse me, sir. I'm gonna need you to be here now. Because if you're not here, you're nowhere. And I was like, ooh. She's so right. I had an epiphany. I realized at that very moment that I would much rather be nowhere than in that freaking yoga class. And I left. I walked right out. Proudly, too. And my wife looks at me like I'm insane, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I wait in the car for her. She don't follow me. She knows she's going to finish the class. She comes back in. I go, oh, you were so right. I hate yoga. She goes, no, you don't hate yoga. Let me take you to another yoga class next week. So I went to another yoga class, 70 degrees in the room. Go to the class, there's a couple of different instructors that guided me into positions. I had a blankie, like two. And then like these blocks, they're like foam blocks and like straps that you could use in the position. And I'm like, ooh, I love yoga. I love it. Then I had my real epiphany. Started to realize that a lot of human beings can't be here now because now is too hard. The kids I was working with, they couldn't be here now because now was too difficult. Some of us, some of the patients that are seen that can't be here now because now hurts too much. But if we're not here, we're nowhere. So what are those, symbolic blocks and straps and blankies and ways that we turn down the heat so that folks, no matter what's going on in their life, can actually feel supported enough to be here now? That's the magic of a community. And then the last one is this idea of internal control. Internal control, that you are in control of your destiny. In trauma, we talk about external locus of control. It means I don't know what's going to happen to me. The world just happens to me. I'm a pawn in the game. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm powerless. But internal control says I have choices to make. I can control part of the outcome, not everything, but there's some things that I have a choice. Nobody can take my dignity. Nobody can take certain things from me. I remember my son once, we went to Bloomingdale's. You know Bloomingdale's? It's like a super expensive store. And we were in the glass section. They had a lot of glass things. People spend a lot of money to have crystal stuff. I didn't have any. So I said to my son, dude, stay close. Don't touch anything. All right? He's like, yeah, no, I'm good, Dad. So I turned my back, and all of a sudden, and there's a display. It was like wine glasses piled up. They're all on the ground, and they're shattered. And I run over, in the store, people run over. My son's like panicked, and I look at him, and I'm thinking he's going to be like, and he looks at everyone, he goes, "Don't worry, I'm fine." That was what they're worried about, man. But I loved it. I mean, after they told me I didn't have to pay for it, they have insurance. By the way, you can break stuff at Bloomingdale's. They're insured. But once I realized I didn't have to pay for it, I was like, oh, my son knows his value. Yeah, he's worth more than the Corning glass, beautiful china. He got that. He knows he's worth something. Sometimes, especially when patients get sick or they're dealing with brain changes, maybe they don't feel as valuable. Maybe they don't feel like people see their value, their importance, but they're there. The brain's just not working the same way. The brain is just a freaking organ. It's not us. I'm not my brain. I'm not my thoughts, thank God. No. But this idea that we have choice and we have voice and that we are valued is critically important. And then when you get those and they all come together, well, that's play. So you think about any place in this community where people go, I'm engaged, I'm here, and I have a purpose and positivity, and I feel connected and seen and valued, and I feel safe and cared for. You playing. It's not about the silly games, although I love the silly games. And sometimes the silly games are a great container, and we can modify them because we should be playing more often. Sometimes it might just look like a walk in the woods with a friend. Sometimes somebody might be in a chair and just swaying to some music. But play is just about this. It's about living your life open. But you need permission. As grown-ups, we need permission. Somehow you don't feel like you should be playing. You're a grown-up. What am I going to play this stuff for? Sometimes the world doesn't give us permission because it fills us with too much stress and fear. And so it's tough. But this community, and this is what's the most exciting part of this, you know, I was thinking the other day, you know, remember this commercial? Tricks for Kids? Yeah, but you know what's cool? Play isn't. No, it's not. It's for all of us. It's for all of us. You know, George Bernard Shaw once said, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. There's got to be a community that never stops playing. That when we think about Pinehurst and the greater area, and I'm just learning the community. I don't know. This is my first time here, but I like it so far. And I'm hoping I get invited back. I don't usually get invited back to places, but I'm hoping I get invited back. You know, when we think about this idea and those domains of play, I really want to look at it like this. This is what Pinehurst is. It's a meeting place where engagement, inspiration, joy, wonder, love, empowerment lives. I mean, it's cool y'all got some nice golf courses here. They don't do nothing for me. I don't play that game, okay? I'm beyond bad at golf. I've told people, like, dude, I'm terrible at golf. And they'll be like, no, it's okay. You're probably not that big. Go play. We play. And then at the end, they go, oh, wow, you really were telling the truth. I once did a best ball tournament. What do they call it? Where, like, you use the best ball? 18 holes, never used my ball. Never found my ball. I mean, I don't understand the game, so I won't be here golfing, okay? But this community is not about golf, man. No, it's not. That's not what I've seen. This community is about something way bigger. And the call to action first starts with ourselves. Because in the words of the great jazz saxophone player, Charlie Parker, he said, if you don't live it, it won't come out your horn. We can't spread to others what we don't have for ourselves. So the biggest journey, and it's not selfish, is how are we going to get these things? What are you going to do? Maybe talk to you. What are you going to do to bring a little bit more joy into your life? Just a little bit. What are you going to do to bring a little bit more connection into your life? Who are your playmates? Who makes you feel alive and sees your beauty? And how are you going to make it a point, even in a busy world that's separated sometimes by many miles, how are we going to get in touch with them? What are you going to do to stay engaged, to stay inspired? You know, I always thought like the biggest difference between adults and children is the amount of time we try something new that frightens us a little bit. You got to try something new. Even if it's just taking a different route to the store. Even if it's just trying a different food you never tried. Listening to a different genre of music. What are we going to do to bring a little bit more inspiration and engagement? Maybe I'm going to learn something I started skateboarding. Seriously, at 47 years old. And I got the shoulder surgery to prove it. Not a great idea. I'm not recommending, by the way, that anyone does that, okay? That was my mistake, but I still love it. I saw a kid the other day. I was on my board, and he goes, dude, cool board. Do any tricks? I'm like, yeah. I'm 58, and I'm on it. You want to try that? He goes, you're 58? You're older than my grandpa. And I go, yeah. You should tell your grandpa to get on over here and ride this board. So this is what our community is. This is what this community can be. So what are we going to do to get these things for ourselves? And then think about what can we do to spread them to others? Real cool ideas. I was just at a place in Connecticut. They designed these beautiful benches. They're really funky looking, and they're yellow and orange, and they plant them all around, and their message on them says, only sit on this bench if you're open to talking to somebody who you never met before. And it's always near another bench that people can work and do their thing or whatever, but they know that orange and yellow bench. I'm going to sit there, and I'm going to wait. Maybe somebody else is going to come along. I'm going to make a new friend. Because these things, they're what we call micro moments of love. There's a woman, she's a therapist named Dr. Barbara Fredrickson. She wrote a book called Love 2.0. She has an essay that says how to make love all day at work and not get fired. But she talks about micro moments of love as just any moment of shared connection. See, me and you right now, if I may, I want to have a micro moment of love with you. You feel that? It was magic. My man. Yeah. Salbona.
Oh, whatever that is.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. Little connections, holding the door for somebody. You do that so well. I went to a place, Angel's Donuts, the other morning. I always need to have a couple of donuts in the morning to start my day. It was an older man, and he was obviously going through some health issues. You know, he had a walker, and he was walking real gingerly, and, you know, I could tell it was a struggle. And I asked him, I said, how you doing, sir? And he said, I'm doing wonderful. And I hope with all my heart the same is true for you. I was like, I ain't in Boston anymore. No, sir. No, sir. So this is the work. How do we get it for ourselves? And then how do we work in this community so that when people think about this community, they think golf second. They think love first. They think joy first. They think dignity and empowerment first. They think engagement first. And then they can enjoy their golf trip. I want to thank you all for the privilege of allowing me to be here, for allowing me into your community and to know and to hopefully allow me to be a part of the special things that are going on here. Thank you so much.